Hey, what's up? It's Dubpace here, and in today's video, I'm bringing you my Reserve Scav Loot guide, where I'm going to go over all of my favorite spots throughout the entire Reserve map where I frequently find high-tier loot that PMCs have left behind. As always, timestamps will be included in the description below. I also use this wonderful reserve map. I shared the original artist's Twitter down below as well as a link to the original map. And there's a link to the color-coded version that I created for the use of this video. You might find this useful, so you don't need to pause and resume a video in the middle of actually playing a real raid. You can just bring up the map to find my favorite spots. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. I'm going to first start by talking about the southeastern section of the map where Hermetic Door, train station, K trains, and the B buildings are. For the purposes of this video, I suggest not going here because raiders spawn here, other player scavs come here to kill raiders, and PMCs come here as well to kill raiders later in the game. And if you want to survive with the high tier loot that you've encountered, you don't want to go to this area. I will make a separate video about killing raiders as a scav, but if you find yourself in this area and it seems relatively safe, if you're looking for good loose loot, there are two areas that I recommend. The first is the guard tower, where you can find a weapon crate and some loose attachments. And the second is actually the roof/balcony of the train station, where there are loads of loose attachment spawns. And if you walk on the roof, which is extremely risky, you will find a dead scav. And in addition, there's an AKS-74U spawn that actually has some attachments on it. So this could be useful if you spawned with a bad gun. Moving right across the fence line to the north, you will find the E2 bunkers. I'm going to mark this in orange because it's moderate danger. This area is very open, and anybody on the roofs of White Knight, Black Knight, as well as Dome have a super clear view of this area. But if you're here safely and you want to loot, I strongly suggest checking the anti-air tank that is the closest to the train station, as there are two ASA spawns, one in the refrigerator and one on the green boxes. If you have the time to check the other tank to the northwest of the ASA spawn tank, there is an AKS-74U spawn that I wanted to mention, which again could be very useful if you need to upgrade your gun as a scav. Moving across the fence line to the west, you'll encounter the first building that I suggest fully looting, and that's White Knight. When you go into White Knight, on the first floor, check the side rooms. There's one room that has a duffel bag and 3 jackets. Another room has an intelligence spawn. And when you go up towards the second floor, take a peek through the sandbags and see if there's any attachments that you're interested in, because you can always get to the second floor by dropping down from the roof. As you go to the third floor, there's a computer that you'll see right away, but I suggest beelining for the biggest room at the end of the hallway on the third floor. There's weapon crates, lots of loose loot with attachments, tons of good stuff. And then after that, hit the actual roof itself. This is one of the best roofs on Reserve, plenty of weapon attachments, lots of stuff that can be worth lots of rubles since all of this is found in raid. And don't forget that if you want to drop down to the second floor, you just go through one of the holes in the roof and you can grab those attachments that you spotted earlier. Moving right across the courtyard to the west, you will find the Black Knight building. And for this video, I'm not going to suggest this as one of my favorite spots. However, if you want to do a filing cabinet run, there are nearly 30 filing cabinets in here. And on the third floor, there is a room with 4 computers if you're really hunting for computer parts. However, I do strongly suggest on the K train side of the building, check the window and look to see on the workbench if you can find a Tetris or a graphics card laying there, because this is a high tier loot spawn. Just a hop, skip, and a jump away to the west is the King building. Now keep in mind, King has some of the best loose loot that's available, so it's typically hit by PMCs, and you might want to skip this on your route. However, if you do safely wander into King, I do suggest on the first floor, take a quick look at all of the server racks in the 2 server rooms that you can find. And there is also another room right directly off of the server rooms where there is an intelligence spawn and also a rare key spawn. Now, typically in King, I don't loot the second floor, but of course you're welcome to look around. On the 3rd floor, lots of great loot. Right off of the stairwell, there's a small utility closet. On the wooden shelves, you can find fuel and water filters. And then head to the end of the hall into the big room. There is a desk with a light on it, which has an intelligence spawn. You should always check for that. And there's also a nice weapon crate in here as well. Moving out of this area into the garage area, there is another utility closet with lots of possibilities to spawn more fuel and water filters. I've actually found 2 filters here before. And of course, in the garage itself / garage server room, there are lots of servers that you can check inside for military tech spawns. And against the far wall, absolutely make sure you always check these metal shelves, as there's a possible Tetris spawn here as well. Directly to the south of King, you'll find White Bishop. This is another building similar to Black Knight. I'm not going to suggest hitting this on your scav runs, unless if you're really hurting for meds. If you need to find some medicine, anything like that, then I do suggest hitting this building. Otherwise, skip this one. Moving clockwise around the helicopter courtyard, you will now encounter Black Bishop. This is also known as Tech Building. Black Bishop, similar to King, is a super high value target for PMCs, so it's likely that everything has already been looted in here, but if it is safe, it can't hurt to check. And I've especially found a lot of loot that's been left behind on the 3rd floor. Each of those rooms on the 3rd floor has a chance to spawn military tech, and most frequently I find loose military tech on the metal shelving units. Don't forget, you can also jump down from the 3rd floor onto the metal awning to check the GPU room. This area is hit 9 times out of 10. You likely won't find anything, but look around really quickly and expect that you might encounter some other player scav that has a similar idea as you. Check this building quick and get out. Moving to the 9 o'clock position of the helicopter courtyard, you will find Black Pawn. Now, this is another building that I'm not going to suggest hitting on your scav runs, unless if it's late wipe, in which case I do suggest hitting the basement just to check for any dead PMC bodies that might have been fighting over the marked room and see if you can scavenge any loot from them before moving on. And the last building in the helicopter courtyard at the 12 o'clock position is White Pawn. This might sound weird, but this is actually one of my favorite buildings, and it is so rarely hit when I'm playing my scav. I always get great loot here. The best loot you will find on the roof. There are multiple weapon crates on both sides. There is a tent that features a wide variety of loose loot attachments, as well as a grenades case. And there's also a military tech spawn on the green crates next to the radar tower. If you want, you can also loot within the building itself. Just keep in mind that your footsteps are very loud. There's a grenade case, there's some weapon cases. It's worth looking around if you have the time and you feel safe. Before leaving this area, if the raid has been quiet, don't forget that you can actually loot within the helicopter courtyard as well. Close to King, there's a small watchtower that I call Crawlspace. Now it's called Crawlspace because you can crawl underneath it and check the dead scav, and there's also a rare loot spawn to the left of the dead scav as well. It's always worth checking. In addition to the crawl space, the helicopter itself actually has a lot of loot. There are actually 3 weapons cases in the helicopter, and there's also an intelligence spawn in the middle part. To the southwest of the helicopter courtyard is an area that I normally call Scavlands or E2 bunkers. This area I'm going to mark in red because it's another very wide open area where everyone can see you and what you're doing. Be careful in this area, but if you can safely get in there and you feel safe, there's one bunker that I do typically like to check, as I have found an ASA spawn in there multiple times. We're going to jump to the top of the mountain here, all the way up to Dome or Queen. And entering this area, there are 2 guard stations, and one of them is locked and it contains 2 safes. The other is unlocked and contains a safe, a computer, and a filing cabinet, as well as a weapon crate outside. Whoever spawns at Dome, they can either loot this area and then go down into the bunkers, or they will run to Black Pawn to try to be the first to hit Marked Room. So it's possible that this area is not hit actually quite frequently, so it's worth checking. Moving into the Dome building itself, For me, I don't normally loot first and second floor on my scav, but on the third floor, there is a couch right next to the windows to the roofs that has an intelligence spawn. The roof itself has weapon attachments that you could loot. And then if you go all the way up into the actual radar dome, there is a black weapon crate that you can loot, as well as other weapon attachments as well. And if you walk around the perimeter, there's an SVD spawn that can happen too. So it's worth looking around this area if you can be here safely. Last but certainly not least, let's jump into the underground now and talk about the loose loot that's available in the bunker. Now, this is one of my favorite areas, and you never know. You might even be able to kill a PMC that's trying to extract a D2 as well. So it's a very good thing to go down here. Don't be scared. The first area underground that I'm going to talk about is the whole area around D2 extract. This is a terrific area. There's a safe that is completely unlocked and you can get to. There's a computer next to the safe. In addition, these server units around the safe room also can spawn ASA. They're always worth checking. There's some toolboxes in this area. And best of all, directly underneath the safe room, there's a desk with a light on it. And this is another intelligence spawn that people pretty much never check. I've found a lot of intelligence here. Before leaving the D2 area, if it seems like no one has extracted D2, if this whole area seems unlooted, it's always worth checking all the way at the actual extraction, because in addition to the 2 jackets and duffel bag that's available over there, there is also 2 military tech spawns that can happen on the floor. It's always worth checking, and sometimes people are in a rush and they completely miss these spawns. Just take a quick look before moving on. On the way between D2 and the underground bunker, there is also an area, I don't know what it's called. I call it skeleton because it has just parts and pieces everywhere. But you should always look in this area down very closely at the ground. You can find water filter, fuel, motors, and I find this stuff all the time. It's frequently missed. People aren't looking carefully. Always look in this area to see what you can find. It can make you so rich, this area. It seems strange to me to be ending with the underground bunker, but this is one of the best areas. I don't know how this ended up at the end of my video, but I will sometimes make this my first stop as soon as I load into the raid, especially if I load it into a night raid because you don't need your night vision goggles down here. But this is a great place to find dead raiders, dead PMCs, dead scavs, when you could take some extra loot from them. And there is so much loot in this area. In particular, the main area in bunker has 3 different wooden crates. One is a medical one is a technical supply one with tools and parts in it, and then the last one is a food one. And then in towards the control room, every single desk seems to have a possibility for an intelligence spawn. And then in the control room next to the power switch, there is a bunch of server units, and these server units have a high chance to spawn military tech items, and I've seen a lot of people that miss the military tech in there even after the power switch has been flipped. So look all around this area, but don't hang out here too long. It has extremely high foot traffic and you don't want to get caught with your pants down. Yo, thank you so much for watching this far in the video. Before you go, I did want to ask the world, do you have a favorite loot spot that I didn't cover? I know Reserve is a huge map, so join the discussion below in the comments section and let us know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video, and stay tuned for more Escape from Tarkov content coming soon on my channel, and please consider subscribing to make sure you don't miss it. Take care out there.